Today's another edition of our series, Test the Tech. We have some soil testers here. Two are identical and one is different. Or is it? Because it looks a heck of a lot like these. The reason why I'm testing these is not only to learn more about these guys, but also to use them in a yard test where I'm evaluating the quality and the moisture in my yard. So let's go to a top-down shot and take a closer look. Okay, the only difference between this guy and these guys is apine. We had a heavy rain yesterday, and I've got a whole bunch of pots on my back deck and in the front of the yard that we're going to put these real close together and see how accurate they are. If they're all the same, then I guess that's goodness. So the apine's going to be number 1. This guy's going to be number 2, number 3. These two just came with the box, nothing else. Although there is this plant watering guide, red zone plants. So I guess there's a whole bunch of red zone plants that 0 to 3 is okay. Green zone 4 to 5 plants, there's a whole bunch of them in here. This one, on the other hand, the apine, actually came with a little card that says if you have any issues, contact them, and a nice little cloth, and I guess that's to use to clean off the sensor every time. I just used my fingers and made sure it was clean, but it seems like using some sort of paper towel or cloth like this might get you some slightly more accurate readings. Probably more like $8.99 for this. I got it on sale, and then these two guys I think were right around $10 for 2 of them. You could probably pay more, but should you? Nah, they're all pretty much the same. Again, they almost look identical. If you took that little apine off, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell. Time to take these guys out and see what they're made of. Now you can see this pot actually has some water in the bottom, so I would like to think that this soil is saturated. So let's put that guy in there. So they're all at the same height and relatively the same location in the pot. So here we got a 6, a 5.5, and a 5. All are saying it's moist but not wet. Some folks will actually put it in the water. So do you think that's close enough? These guys are pretty close to each other. This one seems to be a little light every time, but all are showing, in this case, moist. Back to 1 again. Now I know this pot, I'm feeling into it, and it's pretty darn dry. So let's put that guy in there. And I'm trying not to run it all the way to the bottom. Pretty dry. And they're all showing right around a little bit more than 2. This is slightly under 2. Here's a pot that was outside during a 2-inch rainfall over the last couple days. You can see all the sensors are back to 1. And just by the touch, I would say this soil is what I would call wet. So let's see what the sensors say. Giving me a 4, which is moist. Let's see how far the sensors are down. About that far. Here's the sensor part itself, but I want to make sure it honestly gets down in there. And so we're going to do 2 things here. First of all, we're going to switch them around. We're going to move this sensor over here, this sensor over here. So we've changed all the positions, and see if that makes any difference. This guy is registering moist. This guy is dry, and this guy is just into the moist area. This was in full weather. The entire pot got the same level of exposure to rain, so I find it interesting that it would be... Okay, I go down and it does feel like my finger sensor tells me this soil is dry when you push down, which is kind of surprising, but there you go. Over here, so there can be some pretty significant fluctuation, at least by 1 or 2 points on any given position in the pot. My advice to you is move these sensors around the pot in different locations to get an overall average for the plant itself. For our final test, we have a front bed that has a lot of daylilies in here. These daylilies suck up a lot of water. Let's see what the ground tells us. Probably has everything to do with how deep we put it in. So I'm going to put it in right to around here on all the sensors. They're pretty much all indicating the same thing, right around 2, plus or minus maybe a quarter of a point. Pretty impressed, at least from the consistency of these 3 sensors. As I reviewed the test results, that all 3 of these read the same, it was pretty obvious I needed to do some additional videos where I show how the moisture levels or the moisture monitor changes as I add water. So we're going to do this with 3 separate plants. So each one of these monitors is dry. This plant, it's at 1. This one is 2 1/4. And this one is at 2. We're going to just start filling this up with water until the gauge changes, and then we'll figure out if we need to add more. That one changed pretty quickly. And this is a great indicator to see if you're overwatering. So this guy's moved, this guy's moved, this guy hasn't done anything. Go back over to plant number 1 and add some more water. This guy's moved significantly on that last pour to 5, 6, and wet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just leave these monitors in place and then come back and check in an hour or so and see what the readings are. This is pretty surprising. It's 2.5 hours later. This has gone from a 5 to a 3. This one's gone from a 6 to a 3.5. And this one has gone from an 8 to around a 4.75. There has been an overhead fan in the room, but pretty much nothing else has changed. So we're gonna get to the wet stage on all of these guys and do another test. It's the next day, about 10 hours later, and they all started at 8, and this is where we are now. 5, 4, and a 7. So that's getting better. That was with the probe in the same place, so I'm going to put it back here and see if it changes. 6. Let's move this guy. 4. So if you're going to use these moisture meters, one of the things you really need to do is move it around in the pot. Don't just put it in and then think that that one spot is representative of the entire plant, because it's not. It can change significantly depending on where it's at. I think you're going to find, if you follow these simple tips, these moisture meters will help you grow better plants, healthier plants, and they'll get much bigger faster. Thumbs up and comments always appreciated. Thanks for watching. If you like evaluations of home gear and garden gear, designs of garden gear, sports gear, photography equipment, designs of all kinds, making and breaking things, I even do costumes, cosplay, and props. Check out my channel and please subscribe, because you never know what you're gonna see.